Good morning, everyone. The House Committee on Transportation will come to order. If members have taken their seat, I will ask the clerk to please open the roll for attendance. The clerk will close the roll. We have a quorum. All right. So first order of business before we get into our subcommittee reports is we do have one bill before the full committee. Well, we have two bills before the full committee, but I have spoken with the patrons, and the plan is we've got Delegate Cherry with HB 380, and we've got Delegate Henson with identical bill 1489. The plan that I have communicated with the patrons is that Delegate Henson's HB 1498 will be incorporated into Delegate Cherry's HB 380. So what I will need is a motion to incorporate Delegate Henson's bill.
So moved.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. That is a voice vote to incorporate. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the bills have been incorporated. So now I will ask Delegate Cherry to please come up and present HB 380.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and to present House Bill 380 this morning. A fairly simple bill. I believe Delegate Feggins and I will absolutely be number 1 and 2 in line to purchase what we hope is going to be the new United States Air Force plate, acknowledging the veterans of the United States Air Force and the greatest fighting force this world has ever known. This bill comes at the request of the Department of Veteran Services, having gone through and realizing that all of the other major branches of the services have been acknowledged by a plate in Virginia. There is typically a signature or sign-up list that goes with this. It's not unprecedented for that to be waived, and I believe the language in this would offset that requirement and would allow us to go directly to DMV to have the plate designed and implemented. And we've met with them, and they are ready to start that process.
All right, wonderful. Are there any questions from any members of the committee? Delegate Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask the patron if there is a reason why the Air Force probably has not had a plate to this date.
Absolutely. And the answer to that is you always save the best for last.
Madam Chair, follow up?
Delegate Glass.
I was guessing, being in the Commonwealth with the world's largest naval base and other forces who are foresighted and plan and have the people, that this waiver is probably because the Air Force likes to be
special.
Madama.
Special, yes, ma'am.
Copy. I was just making sure I was understanding. So if I understand correctly, the Air Force is last if they don't.
Absolutely.
All right. Got it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Feggins.
Question for the patron. I would just state that I also am in agreement that the Air Force is the greatest branch in the world. We have always provided air dominance since 1947, and I would also like to ask that I would be number 1 to get in the plate. So if you would defer to that, that would be great for me.
We can talk about that.
I don't think that requires an amendment, but Delegate Ballard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Delegate Cherry. Is there a particular reason why you couldn't get into the Army and you chose the Air Force?
Yes, sir. And the reason for that was I scored too high on my ASVAB.
Are there any other questions for the patron? Hearing none, a motion is in order.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to report. Oh, and I will note, because we incorporated the bill, the motion needs to be to report a substitute. The clerk will open the roll.
Okay.
All right. The clerk will close the roll. The bill reports 18 8-0. Thank you,
Madam
Delegate.
Chair, for your work on this bill.
All right. Moving on to our first subcommittee report, Delegate Sewell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first bill is House Bill 95 from Delegate Waxman regarding the reporting of stolen license plates. At the request of the patron, the subcommittee recommends striking from the docket by a vote of 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded to strike HB, did you say 95, Delegate?
Yes.
Madam Chair. Okay, it's moved and seconded to strike HB 95. That is a recorded vote, so the clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. All right, the bill is struck. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, we have House Bill 296 from Delegate Ballard regarding the failure to renew vehicle registration. At the request of the patron, the subcommittee recommends striking from the docket as an alternate solution to the matter has been identified. On a vote of 8-0, I so move.
It's been moved and seconded to strike HB 296. I'm glad you were able to find an alternate solution. The clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. The bill is struck 19-0. Chair Sewell.
House Bill 548 from Delegate Walker regarding temporary registration authorization. At the request of the patron, the subcommittee recommends striking from the docket by a vote of 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded to strike HB 548 from the docket. The clerk will open the roll. And clerk will close the roll. The bill is struck. Chair Sewell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have House Bill 840 from Delegate Austin, which authorizes the issuance of revenue sharing special license plates marking the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 8-0, and I so move.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to report HB 840. The clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. Bill reports. Chair Sewell.
Thank you. We have two more bills from Delegate Austin. First up, we have House Bill 844. The subcommittee recommends an amendment posted to LIS. I move the amendment.
Second. All right. The amendment's moved as a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The amendment is before us. Chair Sewell.
Thank you. As amended, the bill conforms the definition of commercial motor vehicles to federal standards, codifies the entry-level training system, and removes contradictory provisions. The subcommittee recommends reporting with amendments on a vote of 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded to report HB 844. The clerk will open the roll. Is everyone okay? Clerk will close the roll. Bill reports 19-0. Chair Sewell.
House Bill 845 from Delegate Austin provides that if an abandoned vehicle has been titled in another jurisdiction, the DMV may rely on information provided by a business in possession of the abandoned vehicle. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 8-0, and I so move.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to report HB 845. Clerk will open the roll. The vote's wrong on the board.
No, the vote is strike on the board.
Oh, it says strike. Oh,
what was?
well, clerk will destroy the roll. Is this 8:45? Yeah, the motion, it's. Okay, clerk will open the roll for a report. All right, clerk will close the roll. And the bill reports. Chair Sewell.
Thank you. Lastly, we have Delegate Green's bill, House Bill 425, which pertains to the release of privileged information by the DMV. The subcommittee recommends reporting 7-1, but there remained a few questions. As a result, Delegate Green has been very gracious and blessing us with his presence this morning, as well as we have members from the DMV who are willing to answer questions and offer some additional clarity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Green, if you have any additional remarks that might clarify some of the questions that came up in the subcommittee, and then if anyone from DMV would like to follow you, we would welcome you to the podium at this time.
Yes, Madam Chair, and I might add the blessing is truly mine for being here this morning. I want to start with, I want to give a little hypothetical. It's the release of non-medical information. If you and I had a car dealership, okay, and suddenly we get a letter from the DMV saying, hey, there's a problem with your 30-day plates. We're good, ethical car dealers. We call up to the DMV, say, hey, what's the problem here? What's going on? And they say, Mr. Green, members of the committee, we cannot release this information to you because it's privileged. Well, this information is key and vital for us to have a defense. It's exculpatory in nature. There was a question as for the re-release of this privilege information, and the code 462-208E deals with that and is prohibited to re-release this information to other parties. So if the party who gets this, who's putting a defense in this administrative hearing, they need this information to mount a proper defense. And I have some folks from the DMV here who can answer some further questions, and if you all would like to come on up this time. But that's what it's in nature. It's very limited. This came to me through a constituent. I've been working with the DMV for the last several months on this cleanup language. So.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Carla Jackson. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Legal Affairs with the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the committee? Delegate Ballard.
So I haven't done any of these hearings, so I don't fully understand the process. But if the DMV is doing an administrative hearing, wouldn't this information be available to the attorneys and parties involved, and the DMV wouldn't have any right to claim that it's privileged?
No. Virginia has very strong privacy protection, and that's important to all of us. And so, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Virginia has a law that protects all of our privileged personal information, and we're talking about personal information for these cases. And so DMV is not allowed, or we're barred, we're prohibited from releasing information if it falls under that definition of personal. And there's another section that explains what personal information is. And so how this looks in real life is that if we have a business, actually a great example would be this. Let's just say that you are called to answer a question about a bill that you presented in the past. And the information on the bill, some of the information on the bill was redacted because we were prohibited from providing it to you. And so it would look something similar to this. And this is actually an example from a real case that we had. Or from our current bill, I have things blocked out. You wouldn't be able to answer to that if there are allegations related to this matter. You wouldn't be able to defend yourself. You wouldn't be able to explain why you made this decision to patron this bill, why you made a decision to support it or vote in favor of it. And that's what we're trying to do for these cases. Due process requires that we give people a notice, opportunity to be heard, and most importantly, that they have all the relevant information about the allegations against them. And so they cannot defend themselves. And we have two important things that we must do, or responsibilities that we must do as the Commonwealth. We have to make sure that people are not, engaging in unlawful activities, which is why we have the administrative hearing process. But we also have to make sure that we're ensuring due process. And if we deny people the information that they need in order to defend themselves, then we could, the agency, the Commonwealth, could be accused of making an arbitrary decision. It wouldn't be a fair and impartial proceeding. And that decision, particularly if it's a bad actor, could be reversed in circuit court. And so now we have a bad actor out here doing unlawful things again because they weren't ensured the due process that the 14th Amendment actually guarantees them.
Delegate, does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up?
No, that answers it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Glass?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the request of the chair, can you provide some examples of, because it's very broad, personal information, non-medical information. Can you give some examples of what that could possibly be?
Yes, it could be, I'll give a specific example from a case. We have, in many instances, a business that is using temporary license plates unlawfully. So they have in their records, they've assigned a temporary plate to a number of customers or a customer multiple times unlawfully. We would have the names of the individuals to whom these temporary plates were assigned. We would have their phone number, their address. We might have their driver's license number or a copy of their driver's license. And we cannot provide to the business that is before the hearing officer defending themselves against the unlawful use of these plates. We would have to provide them. This is actually, wrong sheet. We would have to provide them a copy of their own records with information blocked out. And they can't say, they can't defend and say, hey, I didn't assign this temporary plate to, Jane Doe, because I don't know who Jane Doe is. So how do I defend against that? And I'm sorry, I put my example, it's on the back of it. So we have, for example, here, customer number. Here it's blocked out. So, and the name may show, but the customer number may be different. And what happens in these cases is that the businesses will do some things like change a number, change a letter. And so it's important to be able to show all of the different changes related to the same customer. So if they change their address by one digit, if they change their customer number by, instead of a T, it's now an F. We need to be able to show that information to show kind of the chain of bad acts over time that law enforcement has investigated and presented to the hearing office.
Follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Delegate Glass?
And so in this case, how has it, just for the space that we're in, how has this been handled in the past?
In the past, we have done one of two things. We've done two things. In some instances, we've released the information. In other instances, we have blocked out the information. And the history is that we did not realize when we first opened up 208 to make some changes a few years ago, we did not realize that we had forgotten about the administrative process. There were a number of attorneys at DMV that worked on it, and we just didn't realize it. And we spoke with our counsel at the Office of the Attorney General, and they gave us great advice on, presenting a bill in a future session to have this change. Because what we want to do is really match the federal law. The federal law already allows for the sharing of, they actually make it more broad than what we're asking for. But the sharing of personal privileged, in some cases even, personal and privileged vehicle driver information in administrative proceedings. And we're being very specific here. We don't want to provide all of the information. We're not trying to open up all of the books. We're not trying to deny people the opportunity to have their rights protected. But we also want to make sure that we are guaranteeing due process. And that requires that we provide people the information that is, all of the information relevant to the allegations against them.
Delegate Griffin.
Thank you. My question goes to whether you're aware of any opportunities to misuse this information. And I was, really thinking, I know that it says in connection with any proceeding administered by the department. So that seems to tie it to something directly related to DMV. But I'm wondering if there's a separate traffic accident, or is there some kind of misuse that could be used to bring it into a custody or a divorce hearing or anything like that? Have you been made aware of any ways that this information could be abused?
I have not been aware, I'm not made aware of instances where it has been abused, but we do have a section in 208, a section E, that prevents the sharing to a third party. Under very specific circumstances, can it be shared, and it's when they're the subject of the information. So if it's your information, certainly you can give it out.
Delegate Austin.
Madam Chair, I thank the patron of this bill. He has answered the questions very well that were asked of him at the subcommittee meeting, and the subcommittee looked favorably upon the request. The chairman had these concerns, and I think with the information provided today by DMV and the patron, I think the bill is very clearly in a good posture to support the needs of the agency. So I thank both. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, I have Delegate McQuinn. Did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I just wanted to, because it seems to be a broad, extremely broad opportunity in terms or access to this information. And when it says for use in connection with any proceedings administered by the department to any party to such proceedings, that is extremely broad to any of the proceedings, but to any party. So that means there's no limitations as to an entity having access to this information.
Well,
based on, yeah.
I'm sorry, Delegate.
Okay. Thank you.
The only proceedings that DMV conducts are these administrative proceedings. And so that term is very specific and limited. Also, parties are individuals that have a right to participate in the proceeding. And so it would not be disseminated to a witness. It would not be disseminated to an individual that is not related to or has a reason to be, whose rights are being challenged, for example. So DMV would have the information, and they already have it unredacted. And the person against which DMV has presented these allegations and who is present before the hearing officer to defend themselves or their business.
Delegate Watts.
Thank you. Following up on that answer, and what you do doesn't cause me concern. What we are putting into the code that you would be allowed to do does cause me great concern, because you've got the language notwithstanding the provisions of this section. So no matter else what is there, the bright letter of what's on the page is you can relate it to, again, any party in any proceeding. And it is not even any party who is officially named in that proceeding. I would urge the patron to take this bill, and we've plenty of time in this session, to tighten up that any so that it comports with what we typically see in criminal law and other areas as far as defining either reasonable or who is properly involved in or is a named party in. I don't know what the term is, which is why I don't really have a constructive amendment right now.
Right. And if I'm sorry, Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you. And party is a specific legal term here. And so party is the person or persons who have a right to participate in this proceeding. So it is, the agency is a party, and because there are DMV witnesses, the hearing office is the objective body hearing the case. And so the agency is a party, and also the individual against whom these allegations are made. And so if you're a business owner and you've been accused of doing an unlawful act with a driving school, for example, we've had this case before where you did not provide the requisite number of behind the wheel hours to students. You have the right to know what happened, when it happened, which students we're talking about, so that you can defend yourself. And so you're a party. There's no a business unrelated to this action is not a party. Again, it's a specific legal term talking about the individuals or entities who have a right to participate in this proceeding.
A follow-up, Madam Chair.
Delegate Watts. Delegate Watts has a follow-up, and then I'll recognize Delegate Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do accept that you're saying these are only administered by the department.
Yes.
And it's only a party to such proceeding. But I still express the concern, and we've seen this in several other bills, that when you say it has to be limited, because we're now talking about personal information, that if there's any penalty that exists in the law for someone who then passes this information to someone who is not entitled to it as a party to the proceedings. Particularly, I also express the concern of a lot of data mining that is going on and algorithms to take information and build databases that are used either just straight commercial for other purposes or perhaps improperly. So I ask you to think about whether or not there's a penalty if this information is improperly shared by those who are party to a proceeding of the department.
Madam Chair.
If you'd like to make one reply to that, and then I'm going to recognize Delegate Reed, and I think you'll maybe have some opportunity to see if there's clarifying language that might help this bill along.
This happens over 100 times. There are over 100 administrative proceedings that went on last year. I mean, this is a significant issue that needs to be addressed. I would be willing to pass this by for the day. Let's clean up some language. Let's make sure that the delegates' concerns are addressed. Let's get the best bill out that we can, and if it's the chair's prerogative, that we'd be more than willing to do that, to get it right.
Delegate Reed, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we pass this by for the day and give the delegate and DMV an opportunity to be able to further clarify some of these concerns.
Madam Chair, I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to take this bill by for the day. It's a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the bill is by for the day, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next meeting, I hope. Thank you. Okay, that completes Chair Sewell's report. And so we are going to move on to Subcommittee 2, which is Chair Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We one bill to come before the committee, and this was HB 305, patroned by Delegate Ballard, and the subcommittee had recommended striking at the request of the patient, and I so move.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to strike HB 305 at the request of the patron. The clerk will open the roll. All right, clerk will close the roll. Bill is struck. And that completes your report, correct, Madam Chair Carr? Is that the only bill?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fantastic. Okay, I believe if are there any other questions from the committee? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Have a great